Please welcome Sean Holquin.
All righty. All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Sean Holguin. I am the Director of Commercialization at Valley Fine Foods, and today I'll be talking about how we've used Aras Innovator to really be nimble in the food industry. Just before we get started here, a little bit about myself. Like I said, I'm the Director of Commercialization at Valley Fine Foods. My background is in food science, so I have a degree in food science from UC Davis. Been with Valley Fine Foods my whole career. I started as an intern in R&D. My first permanent job was a food scientist. I led the R&D department for a little bit. Did some process management as well. And that's when I was heavily involved in implementing Aras Innovator at Valley Fine about 6 years ago. And now I'm in the Director of Commercialization role. So basically, I still have ownership over Aras Innovator and kind of the key user there. But my main function is to oversee all our commercialization projects, launching new items, changing things already in market, and just keeping our business strategy on track. So that is me. Today, what we'll be talking about, I'll give you a little introduction to our company, to Valley Fine Foods, and also to just start the groundwork. We'll talk about the food industry in 2020, and about us and how those two things are related. I will try not to talk too much about last year because I'm sure everyone's tired of hearing about it, especially from a business perspective, with all the problems everyone had to solve last year and being nimble. And then I'll get into the meat of what I want to talk to everyone here about today, and that is how we've used Aras Innovator to effectively onboard new employees through all of this and through all of this craziness. I mean, especially with so many people being remote. And the second key point we'll talk about is how we've used Aras Innovator to innovate, to really keep our company moving forward. So that's what we'll talk about today. All righty. So first, about Valley Fine Foods. So just so you know context and what we're making with Aras Innovator, we provide consumers with innovative meal solutions that satisfy their needs across every day part. I think we love that statement. I think just a simplified way of saying it is we like to make good food. We like to make good food for people throughout the day. Our heritage brand here is Pasta Prima. We've been in Costco since the very first Costco in Kirkland, Washington, with what you could see there with that green bag, our spinach and mozzarella ravioli. That's probably the one that people have tried the most, the triangle in the freezer there. It's really tasty. My kids still like it. We do also have Pasta Prima in retail grocery. We were first to market as a gluten-free fresh pasta under Pasta Prima. So really proud of that milestone. Our other pasta and sauce brand is Artisola. You can find Artisola at Whole Foods all across the country. So we make, it's our organic non-GMO pasta brand. Also have gluten-free items. So you can see here a really cool item that we just came out with is our gluten-free cheese ravioli made with cauliflower dough. Really good, really tasty. If you eat gluten-free, I encourage you to try it. And then the last one is our Three Bridges brand. So our Three Bridges brand is the brand where our latest item is under, and that is our egg bite. So that we are actually the first baked egg bite to market, and we really pioneered egg bites in the retail segment. We were first to market at Costco, and we were also first to market in grocery. So I'm sure all of you guys are familiar with Starbucks egg bites. Those are sous vide. We've kind of pioneered the baked egg bite process, which has been moving forward a lot for retail. So that's us. That's Value Fine Foods. So a little bit about the food industry landscape. So it'll be helpful to tee up a little bit the challenges that we had to face last year specifically, and again, how Aras Innovator is helping us. So just real brief, like I said, everyone was asking the same things last year. Is what do we do? How do we respond? Our industry was no different. Food was no different. A lot of the conventional things that we had learned in the food industry were really just flipped on its head. Things went a little crazy. Grocery stores really just cared about keeping things on shelf. We had a lot of heavy SKU reductions but we did it, and brands and companies all across the country did it to meet demand. There were product categories that were seeing a resurgence. So things like the frozen section in the grocery store, things like the canned food section, all seeing just revitalization through all of this. My personal favorite kind of panic headline is from The Atlantic. Grocery stores are the coronavirus tipping point. So that was just kind of encapsulates our attitude throughout the year, and kind of our just, hey, hold on to your seats nature of what we had to deal with last year. So what we wanted 2020 to be was really, we wanted it to be a year of growth. Looking back on it, it really was a little bit, but that our plan initially going into 2020 was we were really looking to reinvent what we were going to do with our retail pasta business. Had some competitors come in, and we really needed to shift and figure out what we were going to do next. So we last year we relaunched our heritage brand in retail under an innovative new packaging format. You can see here, serves 4 minutes. We really wanted to provide consumers with the best value premium pasta that we could, in a pack that was serving a whole family for flavors that people weren't used to seeing in the larger items, things like chicken, Italian sausage, and things like that. So really looking to revitalize on the retail pasta side. We're looking to continue our support for our healthy brand at Whole Foods, which is Artisola. A lot of natural sector growth in the pasta segment. So we're looking to continue that. And we wanted to continue to grow our new items, Three Bridges Egg Bites. That has taken off like a rocket for us. And we really wanted to make sure we put the proper support behind it, not only with current items, but with also launching new flavors in that segment, and continue to grow our presence in breakfast, which was something new for us. It's relatively new. We launched Egg Bites about a year and a half ago. And lastly, we wanted to look ahead. We saw a lot of success with Egg Bites, and we wanted to continue to push ourselves to innovate and to just do more. So that kind of leads me to where I am today of how we've used Aras Innovator to do this. So we've really leveraged Aras Innovator to be, number one, easy to learn. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about onboarding. And number two, we'll talk about it being how it's nimble and how it's adaptable. And I'll talk about that again with our innovation, our new item innovation. So getting into the meat here. So how we've used Aras Innovator to effectively onboard new people. Okie dokie. Before we get started, I wanted to do a brief overview, just high-level overview of our key database architecture in Aras Innovator that we use. This is important to tee up how we're going to onboard, because I'm going to consistently refer back to this structure as I talk about our onboarding process. So the key parts I've kind of separated here. Obviously, we have our item master. I probably don't have to describe that too much. Every major manufacturing company knows your item master information is extremely important. We have our item master information in our ERP system, and we also have our item master in Aras Innovator. And those two things are, I would say that they're redundant, but they're not duplicative, I guess I would say is the best way to say it. Each one has its purpose. So all of the item master information in Aras Innovator really houses things like specifications, things that people really hold on the production floor, and it all links up to our ERP system via our item numbers. So that's our item master. That's really the hub. That's why I have it at the center. Some more things that are slightly more specific to the food industry and even to us. We have our formula management system, which we've kind of grown since we first implemented Aras Innovator. And that is through two key databases, through our formula projects and our formulas. So that's really recipe management. That's the best way to think about it, is we've kind of divvied things up between our item master. We have recipe management that is strictly for food and for food only. And that's what that section is. We have two separate databases because one, our formula database has been there since the beginning. It's developed with the help of PSC and Daryl Poor and New Dynamic. So that's been there since the beginning. Our formula project is really something new. It's something that we've developed over the years. It's really our main communication point to everybody about our recipes. And lastly, we have next we have our customer management database, where we really just manage item distribution. Not a ton of information there. We use that very simply. And then the last in the lower right-hand corner, you can see our kind of supplier management system, where it's really focused on ingredients and packaging specific to suppliers. So that's our main architecture that we use in Aras Innovator. We obviously have, just like everybody else, a lot of kind of adjacent databases to manage lists and things, but this is the heart of what we do and what we manage in terms of item information. This here, just a summary slide. So if you want to reference back, it has all the key bullets that I just talked about. Okay, so how do we onboard? So how do we onboard, and what is it about Aras Innovator that makes it so easy? So let's talk about our principles first. So our principles to onboard, and this is for commercialization, so this is the stuff that I do. Priority number one is to keep the sessions short and targeted. That's top priority. One of the learnings that I found is after 30 minutes, hey, maybe sometimes pushing 40, 45, people tune out when you train, especially when you are remote, and especially when it's over Zoom and you're not really sitting next to the person to have them dig in and to really do things themselves. If you're asking someone to kind of look at what you're doing, go back to what they're doing, not everybody has two screens, so it's hard. There's a lot of challenges there. So priority number one is to keep sessions short and targeted, and for each session, basically build towards one or two key learnings. And if they learn more, terrific, but the key is to build to one or two key learnings from every session. And what I found is if you set a mile marker for your onboarding session, for your 30-minute onboarding session, and it's a very clear defined mile marker that's not too simple but not too heavy, you're in the sweet spot. What'll happen is people will focus on that mile marker, and it'll be easier to consume all of the information that gets to that point. So even though they are learning the one big thing and they're focusing on learning that one big thing, they more passively learn all the other stuff leading to it. So that's another thing that we go by is short sessions, one or two key learnings. And next, digging into the system, is we structure the training from a hierarchical point of view. So basically, we want to build on the information. Uh, for my example, for food, it's really easy to do that. It's really easy to start someplace and build, and that's because you have very defined levels in terms of what you're doing. We have ingredients coming to suppliers. We have ingredients that we manage. We have formulations that were created. We have finished goods that are packaged up. There's levels. There's levels to information, and you can start and stop the levels wherever you want. There's some flexibility there, but as long as you are building a logical story in how you're presenting your database, that's what I found to be the most helpful. And to also to structure your database and to structure your information in a way that you can do that. And lastly, always target trainings toward the exact role. So it sounds super simple when you think about it, to say, hey, make sure you teach people the appropriate things, but make sure that their deliverable knowledge is the priority, and all the tangential knowledge is basically nice to have. So here's an example of that. So I'll talk about I just onboarded a new QA manager for one of our facilities just over the last, I think 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. I've had sessions with her. So I'm going to use the QA example in terms of how we onboarded her. Basically, I look at the hierarchy and I say, okay, what do I need to focus on for this person? What's the deliverable knowledge? First off, customer management. I don't care. She probably doesn't care about it. And again, QA, different roles. Sure, you're going to care about the products getting to the customer safely, so on and so forth. In the context of what is being managed in Aras Innovator, in the context of that QA person-specific role, it's really not relevant. How we do what our scope of customer management in Aras Innovator right now is more sales and marketing based. So don't care. So check that box off. Next up, we have the tangential information, so the nice to haves. We have our formula management system, which is nice to know because it is our source of truth for all of our nutritionals and ingredient statements. So we'll say, okay, that's nice to know. If you ever want to do a second or third level double checks for her role as not a regulatory QA, but as a plant level QA manager, sure, we're going to show you that. Not a big deal if you don't learn that right. The things that we do need to focus on for you, and here I have the focus areas, is the item master and our supplier management. Most important things to learn for a facility level QA person. So we're going to say, okay, we're going to focus you on the item master, because the item master is where you get to your deliverable solid formulation forms, your spec sheets, your formulation cards, your ingredient specs that you're double checking on the floor, the supplier specs that you're being given from our suppliers, all the things that are being taken into the facility and also created in the facility. So those are the focus areas. That's what we're going to focus on. And here's an example session layout. And again, keeping in mind all the principles that I talked about before. 30 minutes, focus on one or two key things per session, and build the information. Make the information build on each other, so there's a through line whenever you're onboarding. So session number 1, review Aras, review Aras navigation. The key deliverable, how to search for items in Item Master. Sounds super simple, but that one concept is going to help them for searching about anything in Aras Innovator. Next up, review our finished good item card. So how to find the finished good specification report, and really how to get it so they can provide it to the production floor. And it just goes on. And you can see for everyone, there's a key deliverable, and it's building on the next thing. So Aras navigation leads to the item master, you can dig in a little deeper into the formulation. You then dig in a little bit deeper into the raw materials, and you dig a little deeper into what you're intaking into the facility. So I'm obviously exaggerating here, but you kind of get the point. You get the point. You train down the hierarchy of the system. So you train down the hierarchy. So again, there's a through line, and there's a logical next steps there. Alrighty. Kind of key takeaways here for Aras is it's nimble and it's super easy to customize. So I talked about what we do and how we onboard. Aras makes it capable for us to do that way because we can tailor the database to our needs, which I think everybody does on this call. Like that's a big thing with Aras. But I think one of the key things is we not only tailor it to our data and to our items and to our processes, we have learned to tailor it to the ability to quickly onboard something. And that's what I see as our real competitive advantage. That's what I see as our real competitive advantage is the ability to onboard someone quickly. And here's an example that I like to use all the time. If you've seen me present before, you probably saw this again. So you can see here, this is one of the things that we've done to make things better and make it easier to onboard. So instead of having each specific role memorize exactly the kind of the fields they're responsible for in our commercialization process, to make it easy and to make it one less thing to think about, I've color coded everything. So everything's color coded. So if you remember nothing, all the role has to remember is what color you are. And you move forward, and it's super easy to fill out and super easy to learn. We've taken those same principles and done that in other ways in other databases. So we've color coded, we've compartmentalized data together. We've done all these things in the interest of quickly onboarding. I got a question here. So do you manage regulations such as FDA as part of the framework? Not necessarily regulations. It's great ad there. We don't manage regulations. We do manage all of our kind of item level regulatory stuff, but not exact regulations. Great idea though. That you appreciate the idea. All righty. Last section here is really how we've used Aras Innovator to innovate. So innovation is our company value. So our four values, our four pillars of our company are family, team, innovation, and food safety and quality. Innovation is one of those pillars. So we cannot have a system that holds us back. We can't. Our leadership, like us as a leadership team, wouldn't let that happen, and we just can't. We wouldn't function. We would break, and we would not move forward. So here's kind of our little circle of product items. We have our pasta items under Pasta Prima and Artisola. We have Three Bridges, which manages egg bites. And what's next? We're always thinking what's next. We have an innovation pipeline that I would say is a true innovation pipeline. We are constantly looking at brand new things, not just kind of line extensions or things like that. We're really truly looking at new foods that we can get into. And with that, we need a system that's malleable for it. So, for instance, we need a system that can make sure we properly manage all the information that goes into our filled pasta. So things like filling, dough, forming, all the sauce. That has a certain set of implications, specification sheets, everything like that. We have our egg bites under Three Bridges, which we have a whole separate thing of mixing and baking to take care of as well. And obviously, next could be anything, and we need a way to account for that. So I'll end here with our case study of how basically what we had to do to go from pasta to egg bites. So the really targeted case study here is we built Aras Innovator to be to be for pasta. We've built it very specifically for that. We built our development system for pasta. We built our finished good cards for pasta, specification sheets, everything we built for pasta. We found a market opportunity with egg bites, and we decided to move forward with egg bites. Our leadership team and our ownership board would not allow us to say, oh no, we can't make egg bites because our system can't handle it. Like that's just not an answer that you give. So we had to retailor and reshape Aras Innovator so it then worked for both things. So so egg bites has completely new mixing procedures, completely new bomb structure compared to pasta prima, which meant things that we weren't accounting for before in terms of waste, in terms of cooking, because we're baking the item. And we have all new QA needs. So we're measuring completely different things for egg bites. We can't have a system that is limited by the things that we can measure. So that's one of the ways that Aras Innovator has helped us out so much, is that we can get in there and on our own and make simple tweaks to format, to fields, and so on and so forth. I've been with the company 10 years. We've implemented ERP systems, and if we had to do with our ERP systems, so what we had to do for Aras every time we needed to change gears a little bit to develop a new item and to properly account for all the new information that we were intaking, we would be in trouble. so that's why it's really important for us to have the PLM system that we can easily modify as we are innovating. Because I'm looking at our innovation pipeline, and there is stuff even more different than egg bites and even more different than pasta. So that is what I will conclude you with. And again, it was a pleasure talking to you and everybody about, like I said, how we use Aras Innovator here at Valley Fine to both innovate and to stay nimble with the people we're bringing on. So thank you very much.